Good evening, everybody. I'm mindful that I haven't done a live stream for many days. Neither have I done any updates for many days. There are two reasons why. Number one is I was running a sore throat and my throat still haven't recovered and it's soon developing in a cough. So I thought that I quickly record something before I completely lose my voice. Second is that the last few days has been extremely busy. I'm in Korea, rushing some work with Premium Mall. Some of you has asked me to hunt for good ginseng product and skincare products. So I'm glad to tell you that we've hunted down some things, and we like to show you this later in the advertisement in this video. But I thought that it is aptly right now to update everybody that of this new topic that I've prepared for you today is that I think the world right now is in a chaos, and I certainly would like everybody to pay more attention to all the chaos that's happening and what the implications are to us for the stock market and for our economy. And we'll get to the topic right away. I think the biggest thing that ever happened over the last 24 hours is the mutiny that we have in Russia, where Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, has marched his troops all the way from the borders of Ukraine, heading towards Moscow to teach the bureaucrats, Minister of Defense, and his cronies a lesson. And I wouldn't go too much into the reasons behind and what causes him to do it, but certainly over the last 24 hours has been a turmoil. I was watching and ready to give an update, but things keep changing literally by the hour. And interestingly, this morning when I actually woke up, I saw that the whole thing is over, man. We have Prigozhin actually do a dramatic U-turn and promise Putin that he would self-impose an exile in Belarus, and the Wagner Group will leave from the direction of Moscow. They were just 200 kilometers away. That's probably about maybe a 2-hour to a 3-hour journey. And with all the troops at the border with Ukraine, the Russian capital will be overrun by the Wagner Group, which has 25,000 troops. Interestingly, this really shows that the Russian command and control is really very bad, right? So, and I think with this, we really have a big turmoil that will happen in Russia, and possibly a power struggle, and now will probably lead to a cleansing episode by Putin clearing up people which he probably wouldn't trust right now. He has a near-death experience. So, and really, at that point of time, over the last 24 hours, we actually think that Russia is going to collapse and Ukraine probably would win the war without even firing additional shot or things like that. Unfortunately for Ukraine, that's not going to be true anymore. They probably have to still fight the war. And for Putin, lucky, it's a lucky man. He lived to fight another day. But certainly right now, he would not trust a single soul around him. I think he's going through a deep self-reflection and probably doing a cleanup exercise from this. So everything, this might still represent a chance for Ukraine to do a counter-strike. But we shall watch and see, right? But the first big chaos right now that's happening around Russia is that they have a mutiny, right? And mutiny of that magnitude is very rare. So I'm not sure what would this mean for the Ukraine-Russian war. Some say that it's actually good. Some say it's actually bad. Good in the sense that it really weakens the leadership and hit the morale of the Russian troops. Bad in the sense that right now you don't know who can take over powers. What you do want is to replace a madman with a even madder man, right? Where the nuclear weapons and all this are in the hands of a more dangerous person. So Russia now is in a big chaos. But unfortunately, they are not the only country that are in chaos. The next country we should talk about is China, a good friend of Russia. And interestingly, over the last 1 week, we have the Secretary of State from US visiting visiting his counterpart in China. Unfortunately, after he met Xi Jinping, everything seems okay and all good, And guess what? Anthony Blinken, which is the Secretary of State, was just happily reporting that he's done his best job. I think things is starting on better foot. And then this, President Biden called President Xi Jinping a dictator, and that's an insult. Actually, anybody call me a dictator, I wouldn't mind, because I'm not at that league. But he actually called President Xi Jinping a dictator after the Secretary of State visited China. That's really bad taste, That's really bad taste. And if you reflect on this, this again, this is a really reflective of very bad taste by the American president. I expected more from him. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to go very well with China, and China has called out this incident as with deep regrets. Right now, meanwhile in China, guess what? Okay, China's unemployment, especially at the younger graduates, is really bad, hitting 21%, and that's the official figures. Their funny way of reporting their unemployment, understating some figures, but really the unemployment is very high. Their property bubble has obviously burst, and if you ask anybody in that comes from the second tier city, just maybe 100 kilometers away from the center of maybe Beijing, Shanghai, all these places, the houses plummeted by 20-30% or even more, half at 50%. And even those in the city are registering some downward pressure as well. Chinese bubble has obviously burst, and the Chinese construction and real estate sector is a huge pillar of their GDP. So if you combine this together with a weakened export because US is just simply not buying much more from China, there's a lot of mistrust towards Chinese products and things like that. This lead to a huge downturn in China's economy. I've talked about this many times. So China is an all-out spree going on, attracting foreign direct investment, asking all the foreign investors to come in again, right? And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to work. So the people has lost faith in China. So China is in big trouble right now. But when we look at China, we should be mindful that it is not one homogeneous society. Even if they all speak the same language, there are different states and different places. They all have different degree of economy. Some doing much better, some doing much worse. And with different segment of inequality of a very big magnitude. Now in Seoul, I saw many Chinese tourists buying up things, they are like cheap, And on the other hand, we know of many Chinese, they're doing quite badly in China, right? So there's so many Chinese that come to Singapore, buy up houses like crazy, taking a political refuge in Singapore. So when we look at China, we don't look at it one homogeneous society, but we look at it really as a different bits and pieces, but collectively the Chinese economy ain't doing well. And the relationship with US is not going to improve in the near future after President Biden called President Xi Jinping a dictator, calling him names. That's very very distasteful, right? So anyway, regardless, we're going to see China now in continuous turmoil again. Yeah. Next, we'll talk about Euro. The Eurozone is now in recession. Germany is in recession, followed by a few other Euro countries. The Euro economy is not doing well, has never been doing well for a long time. The neighboring country, once upon a time, that was with Euro as a part of Euro is UK. UK is not doing well as well. UK inflation is sky high, and it came down by kind of hit a plateau at 8%. The Bank of England has just increased the interest rate by 50 basis points. That's despite the Federal Reserve halting or pausing the interest rate rise. So we are actually seeing UK in trouble, whereby the economy has come down to a near flat GDP growth and a very high inflation rate. The pound has been falling against the US, and so combine Euro and UK all are not doing well, and they all have to continuously feed the Ukraine in the war against Russia. So there's quite a drain on there. So I don't see a good sign in Euro in any way. So generally, all in turmoil, not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. Closer to home, we have got the Malaysia ringgit falling quite significantly. Many Singaporeans are cheering. Not so much they are laughing at Malaysia, but they're laughing there so that they can enjoy a cheaper holiday in Malaysia. And it is a concern that now Malaysia inflation was set to rise again because of imported inflation. But fortunately, Malaysia is a very resource-rich country, so they can actually have import substitution quite easily. Unlike Singapore, where we import everything and nothing can be replaced domestically. There are talks that there's some political instability with the new Prime Minister going for going to manage the state's elections and all this. So I'm not that familiar with the Malaysian politics, but I do see that either the inflation will start to rise, or the ringgit will continue to fall, or both will happen together, and Malaysian will generally have quite a tough time to grapple with this problem. So all these are probably not good as a whole if there are some instability in our neighbors. And Singapore is set to likely to hit a recession, given that we have a first quarter already in negative growth, and this quarter so far all the exports has been falling. So I don't think we'll escape a recession. Even if we escape recession, it will be a very small escape. So right now we also see that a lot of the interest rate have hit lending rates hit high, and a lot of the housing mortgages are coming out of their fixed term and going to flexible term. So a lot of people's housing expenditure is set to go up, and we do see inflation still at a high of 5%, not small. So therefore, right now we are potentially looking at Singapore not in a good shape as well. And if Singapore, being such an import and intensive country and so dependent on so many countries' foreign direct investments, we're going to see Singapore being hit by some of this turbulence at all, right? So I do see quite a lot of uncertainty in a macro scale. Okay. Hi everybody, this is Mr. Lu, the ginseng addict. I've been taking ginseng for the last 10 over years on a very frequent basis. In the past, the ginseng I bought are actually very expensive. They were from Chinese pharmacy in Singapore. But today, I would like to share with you what I now discovered. I've been eating the Korean ginseng for the last 6 months, and they are proven to be very good. Okay, so to start off, let me show you this one. Okay, this is ginseng powder. Okay, it comes in a tablet form, and you take 2 in the morning, and you should feel already very good. Okay, so for beginners in ginseng journey, this would be a good start to go with. Okay, 2 tablets in the morning, you should feel really good. Okay, now if you then upgrade to a higher level like me, needs more energy, needs more energy, more vitality, then you go for the ginseng extract powder. Okay, this extract pill is tablet is actually more higher in concentration. Okay, it comes in easy to carry package like this. Each of them contain 2. I take this 2 in the morning. Some people actually take 4, but I think 2 is more enough. Okay, so you can get them at a link below, and quickly get them before we are out of Korea. Okay. So interestingly, the only country that is not really in big turmoil is US. Okay, and strangely, all the problems that the other countries are facing are caused by the US. You notice that, right? Let's talk about the Russian war, the Russian-Ukraine war. To much of an extent, isn't it caused by the NATO led by US? Chochoing this Ukraine to to keep declaring that they're joining NATO and then forcing Putin to invade them. So I think I said that about one over a year ago, that this war in Ukraine isn't really caused by Ukraine or Russia, right? It's caused by external forces encouraging Ukraine to declare their allegiance towards NATO, right, and forcing President Putin to start a war. But anyway, so the Ukraine-Russian war is more or less has U.S. hands in it, right? As for China, the U.S. have actually cut back a lot of their imports. As a result, we see China economy going down. I don't know about U.S. investment in China, but I do know that the rise in interest rates has actually caused a lot of the China hold a lot of treasury, U.S. treasury, right? They have a lot of U.S. bonds and treasury bills as well. And with the rise of interest rate, those value has gone down substantially. So a lot of the Chinese problems, okay, are caused by the Americans, right? So Chinese problem have a large part to blame on the US, not entirety, but large part. Do you notice that the entire inflation is caused by, entire inflation across the world is caused largely by the Federal Reserve of US printing money like crazy. I've talked about that about 1.5 to 2 years ago. The non-stop printing of money, the US export out the inflation rest of the world, hitting every single mother, father, son, from Argentina to Turkey, who is running some 40 to 100% inflation or something like that, to UK, which is also a very high inflation of 8%, to Singapore, a high inflation of 5%. All these have a hand largely because the Federal Reserve printed so much money. So all this inflationary problem had a US hand in it. Now the US in order to fight their inflation, has pulled the interest rate up, causing the whole global world central bank to increase their interest rates. And as a result, all these have contractionary effect on their economy. Interestingly, for those countries who resisted increasing their interest rate or don't increase their rate by too much, what happened to them? Look at Japan. Japan yen has, as a result, came down tremendously. Singaporeans, you go Japan now for a great holiday, right? Japanese yen has never been cheaper. In Malaysia, the ringgit has been falling drastically, also because Bank Negara is not increasing the interest rate fast enough, right? So you either suffer a falling exchange rate, or you suffer a high interest rate that caused the entire economy to contract, right? There's no other way. Again, right, a lot of all this got to do with the US, right? So, so right now, interestingly, the US economy is probably the one that's least hit, okay? And the employment is still red hot, and they are probably not going to stop increasing their interest rate for at least another 25 to 50 basis points. This is a very interesting observation, right? That all the issues that we're facing right now has a US hand in it. So before we demonize certain dictators across the world and all this, maybe we should take a look at that where are some of the economic and social political instability coming from, right? So now we have concluded that many of the world's chaos are caused by US. You might be very unhappy and say that, I hate this US like crazy, right? You may want to keep your prejudice to yourself, because the question next I'm going to ask you is, where would you put your money? Will you put your money in the most powerful country in the world, where the stock market is rising, okay, and potentially continue to rise because they have clearly control over the whole world? Or you want to put your money in places where is a less proven place of appreciation, right? So I may have my political uncomfortable feeling towards the US, but it's very clear to me that they have the control of the whole world, and therefore they can manipulate things and set their country into better shape. So therefore, I'm continuing to bet on the U.S. economy, right, on their U.S. Stock market. So this is my view. It's a very controversial view. You may not agree with me. I'm happy to have a comments, but I look forward to your opinion. Okay, thank you for joining me. Remember, right? We do have some some ginseng. Okay, this is the secret of my vitality. Some ginseng now available on sale in Premium Mall. You might want to go for it. They are in GS1, cost $99, and GS3, it costs $140. There are some Shopee vouchers. You might go and get them. Okay. With this, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a time of reflection. Okay. See you next time.